Hello, I'm Chris Johnson and I've come here today to Blackpool to the Ribby Hall Leisure Village where I'm going to meet Denise Fergus, the mother of James Bulger, who you'll all remember was so tragically murdered 23 years ago. I'm going to ask Denise about the events of that sad day and about how she formed a charity, the James Bulger Memorial Trust, to do good in the name of her son. Denise, welcome. Tell us something first about James. What kind of little boy was he?
Very pleasant, loves entertaining people. He never walked anywhere, always bounced everywhere. He had kind of long blonde hair that moved every time he bounced. His personality was just great to be around, and when you were in his company, he just made you laugh.
And tell us, what are the memories of him that you cherish most?
Well, I've still got a lot of memories of James that I do cherish, as the way he used to bounce around, and I used to read a book to him, make sure he'd read it back, so he was learning from an early age. He knew his ABCs, he could count. He was just an amazing little boy, and I spent a lot of time teaching him stuff.
And he was keen on the Turtles and Michael Jackson, I think.
Oh, he absolutely loved Michael Jackson. More often him putting his music on than me. A lot of people said I brainwashed him into liking Michael Jackson. Obviously, I'm a big Michael Jackson fan myself, and I wouldn't have to put Michael Jackson's video on. James would do that for me, and every time he put the video on, he'd dance to him. He tried to move like Michael, and it was just so funny. It was hilarious to watch.
And mementos that you've got of James, what are those things that you cherish of him?
Well, to this day, I've still got James's jumper folded to the bottom of a drawer. I've kept everything of his, all his toys. I've kept all his clothes. It's just something that I can't part with. James will always be a part of my life. I don't keep looking at them or anything like that. I just know that they're there. But this certain jumper that I have got, I can still kind of smell James on it.
I believe that after his death, you had an experience that was hard to explain. Tell us something about that.
Oh, that was so weird. Clearing up as I normally did. Michael was busy playing around, but he was downstairs with a member of family. I was bleaching around the sink in the bathroom when I felt a tugging. At them days I wore night dresses and I felt a tugging at the back of my night dress. I thought the person that was with Michael had brought him up in a turn around. There was no one there. So when I shouted for Michael, he replied, but he was downstairs. There's no way he could have got downstairs that quick.
So you think that might just have been James reaching out to you?
It was definitely a tugging at the back, and there was no one else in the house apart from, as I say, me, a member of my family, and Michael, and they were downstairs. So it was definitely someone there, yeah.
Denise, we've known each other for a long time, going on for 22 years. In all that time, have you ever been able to get any kind of insight into what it was that motivated those two boys to cruelly abduct and murder James on that day? Have you ever been able to understand what was in their minds?
Well, no, because, you wouldn't think that a 10-year-old could harm a fly, never mind another child. But these two were different. They were different 10-year-olds to normal 10-year-olds. They knew what they were going to do that day. They pre-planned it, and they planned it weeks before. They tried to abduct a little girl before they actually got James, so they were totally different anyway. So, it was in them to go and do something like that, but I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes to the way we look at kids now.
As you said, they tried to abduct another child some weeks earlier. They'd tortured animals and clearly had been planning this. Who do you blame for what happened? Obviously them, but what about their parents?
Well, definitely blame them too. But, the parents should have been monitoring them anyway. I know where my kids are all the time. Them two should have been at school. And thankfully now when kids don't attend school, the school actually phone the parents to ask where they are. And I think that's a really good idea, because then if they're meant to be in school and they're not, then you want to know where they are. As I say, I know where my kids are all the time. My kids have got mobile phones, and they have done since they've gone to school, and the teachers understand why. They're only allowed to use them for serious users. If I want to get in touch with them, which I try not to when they're in school hours.
We know that they tortured animals and that they, as you said, tried to abduct another child earlier. Do you think that anything would have stopped them doing what they were going to do on that day, or as you say, they'd set out to do that deliberately?
I think they set out to do that. As I say, they should have been in school, but obviously they were playing truant, and they probably were bunking off school a few weeks before that. When they tried to abduct a little girl, they tried to entice her out of a school. So, you know, they definitely were out to take a child. If it hadn't been James, it would have been someone else's child. They would have definitely done it anyway.
So do you blame the truancy service and the school for not having spotted the behaviour that they were displaying?
Well, I think that, you know, the way it works today, all parents get a phone call if the child or kids aren't in school. And I'm just wondering why, you know, they let it slip that them two were missing on the same day. Whether they entered school in the beginning at 9 o'clock and then left the school early, I don't know. Or whether they just never went to school at all that day. I just really don't know. But the blame's got to lie with someone. The school, they should have been in the school, so the teachers then should have known, you know, where are they, and they should have informed the parents, why aren't your kids at school? But the parents should have also, they should have known if they were bunking off, because I know if any of my kids, if they don't attend school, I know.
We know they were sent to live in a secure children's home for 8 years and then released on parole. Do you think they ever really understood what they did? Do you think they were ever properly punished or rehabilitated?
I've always said, you know, I didn't want them locked up forever. I strongly believe if they'd done a sentence in an adult prison for a good few years, then justice would have been done. But because they never reached the adult prison at all, they only went to young offenders, and they got given the best of everything. They even got to decorate their own bedrooms. That wasn't punishment. They were rewarded for the crime that they committed. So I don't think that justice was ever done for James, and I don't think, you know, that they should have been released when they were.
We know that Venables breached his parole and made indecent images of children. It emerged then that he'd been using drugs and that he was involved in violence, and that his parole officers had bent over backwards to cover up for him. What do you now think about the justice system and the way that it's handled this case?
Well, I don't think they knew how to angle this case from the beginning anyway. It's always been a habitator to them, you know, that it's passed from one person to the other. I've just got no faith in them whatsoever. I've no faith in the system whatsoever. I wouldn't trust what they say or what they do.
And do the probation service keep you informed? Are you aware of any changes that were made to Venables' parole?
No.
I mean, he was allowed out of the country to go on holiday to Scandinavia. Would you have been expected to be told when that happened?
Well, I was told if they were to leave the secure homes, I would be informed, but that was never the case. I was never told if they were leaving or if they were having days out or anything like that, so no.
And what do you think is likely? What are your fears, should we say, for what might happen now? Because they're in society under assumed names. Do you think that's right, that people who meet them have no way of knowing who they are, both Thompson and Venables? Well,
definitely not, no, because I still feel that they are a danger, especially more so Venables now. He's proven that he is still a danger. No one knows who they're talking to these days. I mean, he could be getting on with someone, you know, who's got children, and, you know, she could be trusting him and leaving him alone with that child, and the child is too young to speak. God knows what's going on behind closed doors with him. No, I wouldn't trust either of them.
And do you ever hear from the probation service? Because, of course, they are both banned from the county of Merseyside, but do you ever have any reassuring calls from them to tell you that, you know, the parole is continuing properly?
No, not at all. They don't tell me nothing at all. And even if they are banned from Merseyside, who's to say that they're not still entering, because it's been proven that Venables was still entering Merseyside on this ban. He was going to Everton games, he was drinking in Liverpool. I've got a lot of family that live in Liverpool who also drink in town, so why do I not know a member of my family was not speaking to him?
But you've moved on now from that, and obviously you're now celebrating James's life, really. How do you reconcile the fact that those two are at large and James's life was taken from him. That, I think, is the cruelest thing of all, isn't it? That James's life was stolen from him.
Yeah, it definitely was. Only for them two. I would be celebrating James's birthday, but I wouldn't say celebrating is the right word to say. I'm marking James's birthday now. By marking James's birthday, we're having our black tie tiara ball on the 27th of March. That's the only way I can really do it for him and to keep his memory and his name alive. It makes me feel good as well because I am doing something around his birthday. He's not forgotten. And I hope James knows that I'll never forget. That's why we are holding the black tie around his birthday.
So come back after the break and I'll be asking Denise about her life now and the work that she does for charity in memory of her much missed son. So Denise, you've got three wonderful sons, Michael, Thomas and Leon, and of course your husband Stuart. You have a family life that you thoroughly enjoy. Tell us about them. I imagine Michael at 21 must remind you about James. Is that the way you feel?
Well, yeah, he does, but because James certainly never got to Michael's age, I'm more seeing James in my middle child now. I think Thomas is just the image of James. I just look at the picture that I have over the fireplace on the wall and look at Thomas, and it's like looking at the same child. But they're definitely not the same child. Thomas's attitude's totally different to what James's was. He's got his own little characterism. He's in his teens now. The teen attitude's coming out in him. But I just absolutely idolise my three boys. I class them all the same, treat them all the same. Don't love one more than the other, love them all equally, and I just loved being around them and I love spending time with them.
And I think you've always kept James's memory and James's character alive in the family. He's always been part of the family. Is that still the case to this day? God,
yeah. Even when we're sitting having a meal and one of the boys do something, I'd say James used to do that. It's like we speak about James like he's still here. That's the way I want it to be, and that's the way it'll always be.
By the time it was coming up to what should have been James's 18th birthday, you started thinking that it was time to remember him in a tangible way with some kind of charitable work, and after a false start with one charity, you decided to set up the James Bulger Memorial Trust. Tell us about that charity, what it does and why you're so keen on it.
Well, because it didn't work out with the other charity I was involved in, I promised people a James Bulger house, and I thought that's what, I'm going to give people because I like keeping to my promises. So yeah, as he said, as with talks with my family, Stuart and the boys, would they still be willing to help me along with it, and they all agreed, and we decided that we'd go ahead and get a James Bulger house up and running.
And the story of how that happened is quite fascinating. We're here at James Bulger House now. Tell us what the charity does, first of all.
Well, we give free holidays to deserving kids who are going through severe bullying, kids who are doing well in societies, doing well in school. We're just open to a wide range, really. Kids who have to care for parents or siblings. It's just a number of things that we give free holidays to. And it's a lovely place and a lovely area for the kids to be in. And
the way that you came by this caravan was quite fascinating. I believe it was donated by a well-wisher originally, and you've done a lot of work on it since then. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we have done a lot of work on it. This caravan was donated by a lovely lady. Sadly, she bought this house and this caravan with her husband, but her husband passed on. She's seen, when we've done a race for James, she's seen it on Gnoza reports, and she decided that she wants to donate the caravan to us, and that's how it all come about. It was a bit of a sad story that she lost her husband, and it was hard to take this caravan off her, but she insisted on us having it.
And you've done a lot of work on it to refurbish it, and I believe the curtains that we see around here have been made by your own fair hands. Tell us about that.
Never again. Never do it again. We tried to save some money. Obviously curtains aren't cheap these days, and I said to Stuart, instead of going out buying them, because there's all different size windows anyway, it would have been a bit awkward to get the sizes, so I went and bought a load of material and sat on this floor and cut them all up and stitched them on that table over there. And
they look very good now, I must say.
Thanks.
So, So in running the charity, you stage all kinds of events under the theme for James, and I know there have been many of them over the years. We're coming up now to a big one, I think, on the 27th of March, which is a black tie and tiaras ball at the Adelphi. Tell us about that.
The black tie tiara ball, well, obviously it's for everyone to get together, as I say, to mark James's birthday, because a lot of people still think of James, and they still cry over James to this day. So it's nice for people who want to join us on that day, or that night, I should say. We've got a list of performers on the night. It's just going to be a total enjoyable evening for everyone.
And how can people buy tickets?
You can get tickets. All you got to do is go on our website and you can purchase tickets from there.
So would you like more people to get involved with the charity?
I'd love people to get involved with the charity. Running a charity is such hard work these days, and it's really hard to get funds, and that's what our charity runs on. It's people's donations. That's what we have to rely on. We don't get funded by anyone at all, so every penny that we earn, we've got to go out and do it ourselves. But without the donations, then this charity wouldn't be happening, and we wouldn't be able to keep it going. So we urge people to help us, even if it is through just a donation. They are, helping us keep this caravan running, just through that little payment off them.
Did you ever imagine years ago, going back 20 odd years ago, did you ever imagine you'd be doing something like this? I think you've said it's changed you, really. You recognise that it's changed you, what you've been through.
I definitely didn't think I'd be sitting in front of a camera giving interviews like this. No, I definitely didn't think, that had happened to James or, any child really. I was always quite shy, found it hard to talk to people. Now I find that I don't shut up and, I'm always doing interviews when I need to do them. But yeah, it has totally changed my life.
Practice makes perfect. Looking to the future, what are you hoping to achieve with the charity? What plans have you got for extending the activities of the charity?
Well, obviously I'm going to keep this caravan up and running for as long as I possibly can. But I've got massive ideas for the future. Not just the caravan. We want to expand the charity so we can help a lot more kids on a wider scale. Hopefully want to bring something to Liverpool for a lot of kids to enjoy themselves, which I'm not going to go into it too much just yet, because we're still in talks with this new adventure that we're about to take on.
Of course, on the 12th of February, it marks that sad event, the murder of James. You like to keep that private, but just give us a little insight into how you do mark the anniversary of his death. Well,
all we do really on the I-class from the 12th across to the 14th, because he obviously went missing on the 12th and he was found on the 14th. So what we do them 3 days is spend it as a family. We go to the cemetery, lay flowers for James. And as I say, it's not just days where we just speak about, because we speak about him constantly anyway. Just to put flowers, we spend a bit of time at the cemetery, but we also spend a lot of time together as a family. I just love being around my family, because they are the hardest days of any year, every year. But, being around them, it makes me feel a lot better.
And when people sometimes, I know, walk up to you in the street and recognise you, and it can be quite difficult because you don't know them, but they know you. What do you feel is the sentiment in Merseyside and more widely about James's murder and about what you're doing with the charity?
Well, people are so caring. I mean, they're not approaching me to be nosy or anything like that. They're just passing on the well wishes, and it's still nice that people still do think of James like that. And after all these years, I am still getting people coming over to me saying, keep doing what you're doing. Sometimes everyone has the off day where they think, why do I bother? It's just taking too much of my time up. But when you hear them words from a total stranger, it just gives you a big lift, and it's all worthwhile doing the work that I'm doing in James's name.
And is it hard running the charity? I mean, it takes up a lot of your time.
It does. It takes up hours and hours every day. We even work weekends, most weekends. if anyone who's involved in a charity knows just how much time they've got to put into charity work, and it is time consuming, but because this is so personal to me, I really enjoy doing it. But more importantly, I enjoy giving kids free holidays that they deserve.
And is that the reward for you, seeing children enjoy themselves here?
Yeah, I've grew up with a big family, and there's always been babies in the family, and kids have always been a big part of my life, and I just absolutely idolise all kids. And just to one family that I've stayed in here to say how much they enjoy the holiday, it's all worthwhile.
So that's it. I'd like to thank Denise for sparing her time to tell us the story of James's life, and also I'd like to remind you about this event on the 27th of March at the Liverpool Adelphi Hotel, which is a black tie and tiaras ball. The tickets are £45 each, and there are still some left. So you can go to the James Bulger Memorial Trust website, www.forjames.org, and you can buy tickets via that.